Have you ever wondered what would happen if an astronaut fell from the International Space Station with a new state of quantum matter, and Apple marketed it as science fiction but made it into a horror show? I have to warn you, you're not ready for this. Watch until the end to see the crazy theory. We start the first episode with a mother and her daughter driving in the ice-cold forests of Sweden. A Russian girl is constantly saying, "The world is the wrong way around," on the radio. They're paranoid and the mother is constantly checking a blue object that's in the car with them. They finally arrive at the house in the woods that is filled with a bunch of furniture, which we later learn that it is their house. Remember this painting, we'll come back to that later. As soon as they arrive, the mother hides that blue glowing thing without losing any time. From all of that, we can clearly understand something that happened before. Something big. Just to show you how paranoid the mother is, she starts hearing her daughter screaming "Mommy!" in the woods, even though she's sleeping inside. Just as she goes to search where the voice is coming from, they hit us with the intro. We finally go back 5 weeks earlier to see what caused all of this. On the ISS, or International Space Station, 286 miles above the Earth, she's showing the ISS to her daughter. She shows a crew member, Paul, doing astronaut things with a tube while talking with a rocket propulsion team on Earth, saying that they're looking for a new state of matter. They keep talking about, wait, what? Look, I'm no scientist, but since when are we just making new states of matter in that little tube with some bug spray? What the hell? They don't even have a barrier, he's just casually spraying it with his bare hands. Anyways, the mother and the girl keep talking and boom! I told you that shit wasn't safe. Something hits the ISS and that just happens to be the time when they're making new states of matter. It seems like a coincidence, but I think that new matter caused the crash. Anyways, alarms going off, our fellow Paul gets pinned to the wall by a metal pole and everybody's screaming. Classic stuff. The NASA mission control team is telling them to get to an escape capsule, but there's a little problem. Everything's on fire! They barely manage to get to the capsule with the help of their fire extinguishers and start counting heads. When they close the capsule door, mission control handles the fire. Turns out the dude who got stabbed is still pinned to the wall and they leave the capsule to rescue him. I'm pretty sure in real life the crew would just leave. It's really not worth it risking 4 people for just one guy who's stuck knows where. They find him and, of course, he's bleeding out. Now check this out. The first thing he says after waking up is, "What's the status of the systems?" I went from "leave him" to "nobody's leaving without him" in literally seconds. This dude is a real one. We learned that the systems are damaged and they can only evacuate 3 of them if they don't go spacewalking and fix those systems. Down in the rocket team, they're still worrying about the data from the new state of matter, and things are interesting. We'll get to this in a bit. Back at ISS, 2 of the crew members are trying to solve the problem while the rest of them are taking care of Paul. While the spacewalk team is trying to solve the issue, they cut Paul's arm to set him free from the wall. Ouch, but he's fine. But the experiment chief down in the rocket team is not fine at all. He's still worrying about the experiment, saying they got a double quantum signal, whatever that is. The European Space Agency politely tells him to shut up, but he keeps saying that they can find more people, but they won't be able to repeat this experiment since this new matter can only exist in 0 gravity. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that quantum thing does sound interesting, but I ain't giving up Paul for it. Back at ISS, they report that the damage is irreparable and Paul goes into cardiac arrest, meaning his heart stops. They start doing CPR while we finally get a sunrise outside. She reaches the damaged area and sees a massive hole in the wall. Whatever hit them completely destroyed secondary life systems. She searches for the thing that hits them, and you won't believe what it is. No, seriously, go take a guess. Was it an asteroid? A broken satellite? An alien? It's a goddamn human corpse! A female body from the USSR. She tries to catch it, but they lose it. And if that's not enough, Paul dies! It makes sense, yes, when you think about how much blood he lost, but I was hoping he would somehow come back. We got our first death in the team just like that. The ground team explains the plan. Since Life Support 2 got by a flying corpse and 1 isn't working, 3 is the only active one, which can only carry 3 people. And no, the last person can't just squeeze in, there's not enough air, so the plan is simple. 3 of them leave, and 1 repairs the Life Support 1 capsule to leave as well. If the person who's left can't repair Life Support 1, well, it's all destination from there. Our brave main character says that she'll stay and insists that they go. They tell the father and the daughter who are at school what happened. They have a sad moment. The father tries to cheer up his daughter and tells her that her mother will come back, but he doesn't seem like he believes it either. Up at the ISS, they have an emotional moment where the mother leaves a final message saying, "If I don't make it back, will you please be around my family?" They lock eyes one last time. Capsule 3 leaves the ISS. The team says that she can do this on her own in 24 hours, but only 19 hours of oxygen are left. She has to be fast. They cut all the oxygenated power of the ISS at night except the escape capsule so they don't lose power. She'll be in the dark for 45 minutes and back in the game for another 45 minutes. She has to find and change the batteries of the capsule and pump oxygen into it in these cycles, all within 19 hours. Now, if you don't understand the situation, let me break it down to you. She's kind of She draws the corpse she saw while waiting for sunrise, which is pretty smart since only she saw it. Capsule 2, which contains 3 members of the crew, successfully separate and continue its path down to Earth. While everybody is trying to survive, the experiment chief is still trying to convince the main team to give an order to the last person so they get the experiment tube. We obviously know that she will get it since we already saw it at the start. Yeah, that blue glowing thing that was in the car is most probably the experiment. Now I get why they're so paranoid, dude. I would be too if I had a new state of matter on the next scene. Yeah, just a hypothetical. Please don't check my room. Please. The rest of the crew manages to get a nice successful landing. I love the little details they put, like giving them sunglasses because they landed in a desert. Just as when the family is going to speak, suddenly the power goes out. She instantly rushes to fix it. Now folks, she's alone in this ship. We all know that. When I first saw the scene, I was genuinely scared. It's moving towards her. Can't be an alien, right? That's not what this movie is about. She hears a clicking noise but just ignores it since she's so busy repairing the power. But then she hears it again, even louder this time. Now she's locked herself in a capsule since the power went out and she cannot survive without life support. So this is the noise of something hitting the capsule door. And guess what she does? She grabs an oxygen mask and goes to check it? Yeah, fuck that. I'm out. As she gets closer to the noise, she suddenly starts hallucinating that she's in a corridor with a wardrobe at the end that's making the noise. My theory is that this glowing quantum thing is messing with her head, or she can just be messed up because of the situation as well. Comment why you think she's seeing things. Just as she reaches the wardrobe, she goes back to the ISS. By the way, she literally removes her mask while she thinks she's in the corridor, which is just wild. She could have died there. Just when she's about to see the cause of the noise, we go back to the first part where she's searching for her kids, screaming, "Mama!" in the snowstorm. The show is really good at keeping us on our toes. She runs in the snow searching for the noise and she comes back to the house. That's really weird considering the noise was coming from the outside of the house. And when she followed it, she ended up in the house again. At this point, I'm convinced she's gone crazy. Like, there's no way that little experiment tube is doing all of this. Everything goes blurry. The snow literally stops midair and she goes into the house. She discovers that the house is full of spider webs and it seems like it's been ages since she was last there. She carefully goes inside and finds a dead cat on the ground, which I think symbolizes the fact that everything is dead in the house. Remember the painting I told you to remember? Like all the way to the beginning of the video? When she continues, we see the painting we saw at the very start, but it's different. Instead of the angel, there's a scary demon in the painting. Again, I think it symbolizes death. The house, the cat, the woman in the painting, and most possibly her child. She hears a noise coming from upstairs and, without surprising us, of course she goes to check it. We see the same wardrobe in the same corridor. Well, this is a dead version of it, but you get the point. She reaches over to open it and sees that her daughter is inside. She looks like she's been inside for a very long time. They hug while the mom is wondering what the fuck is happening, just like us. That's how the first episode ends. Let's get to the next one right away. We start the second episode, Live and Let Die, with our main character and her daughter leaving the house, stuck in the storm. While they're trying to get back to the house, she asks her daughter, Alice, how did you get there? Let's see what she has to say. They rush into the house and she quickly builds a fire to warm Alice. She's not in a good condition at all. Alice asks, are you a ghost, while looking at her mother. Well, we're wondering about the same thing about you, honey. She prepares some hot water to wash her. We don't get an answer for how she got there and what is happening, but it gotta have something to do with that damn quantum thing. No, seriously, what is that thing? What kind of new state of matter is it? I'm pretty sure you and I are wondering the same thing, so let's go over what we know. It can only be made in zero gravity, it's a new state of matter, and totally different than all the other fundamental ones like solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. Beyond these, scientists have created and characterized other states of matter in laboratory conditions, such as Bose-Einstein condensates and ferromatic condensates, which occur at temperatures close to absolute zero. Additionally, more exotic states of matter have been predicted or observed under extreme conditions, like quark-gluon plasma, which is believed to exist at the core of neutron stars and during the first moments after the Big Bang. Seriously, what the is wrong with all these scientists? I can barely remember 4 of them. Anyways, the warm bath becomes suddenly cold since they run out of hot water. She quickly rushes to get some more, but then the scene that makes me think I'm watching a horror show comes. She sees Alice, the one who's sleeping at the very start, in her bed. She gets a headache, which is pretty damn normal in the situation. The Alice in the bath asks if she's coming, and that wakes up the sleeping Alice. She rushes over to the bath and sees that the bathing Alice is gone. Not only that, the bath doesn't even have any water in it. Apple, that's enough! Now even I'm lost. She looks at her daughter in pajamas, smells her as if she'll be able to tell if she's real or not by smell, then becomes even more paranoid asking, "Where is she?" To which Alice just responds, "Who?" Poor girl. We go back to the ISS. She gasps for air and grabs her mask again. The connection with Earth is still lost. She looks at her Apple Watch. Of course, Apple is advertising its products in its movie and realizes that she lost hours of time with this little trip to Wonderland. She went from 19 hours to 6 hours and has even less time now. Let's see what she has to say about this. "I think my blood oxygen is low. I passed out." Well, no shit, Sherlock. That's what happens when you remove your oxygen mask, isn't it? You want me to believe that this is a highly trained captain. And the worst part is she doesn't even take her mask with her. She just leaves it there. Okay, I'm calm. Let's just move on. She manages to grab one of the batteries and barely goes back to the capsule before sunset. Reports say it took her 55 minutes to switch one battery and she has 4 more to switch. She only has 5 hours and 49 minutes to do everything. While she's rushing to finish it, something hits her in the back. Turns out that it's just a bag that was on Paul's head. She goes back and puts it on. The whole thing just gave me chills. At least I'm not alone because she herself also says that she's scared. Back on Earth, the father and the leader of the European agency are arguing. The father is trying to convince them to do something while the leader is explaining there is nothing they can do. Even if she manages to repair Capsule 1, she's going to calculate her own re-entry, meaning she has to do all the things the computer does when re-entering the atmosphere herself. After the argument, Alice asks if her mother is dead with a straight face, which is wild. Up in the ISS, she's still trying to fix the batteries and recording a message for her family to stay sane. Suddenly, there's an alien-like noise, and since she was just recording, she plays it back to listen to it again. It's Paul! Ha! Yes! I told you he'd be back. Oh, wait. Oh, She slows it down and listens to it again, and Paul is saying, "Stop breathing." Now, I want to make it clear. It's very dark where Paul's corpse is, and she just heard him talk like a damn zombie. Without hesitating, she just decides to go there anyway. I mean, it's gotta be in her head, right? Nope. And she just goes in anyway. Like, come on, don't you have any survival instincts? At least it turns out it's not Paul, just his arm floating in zero gravity. Suddenly, his arm gives her a little handshake. Yeah, you heard that right. Then it just goes back to floating like nothing happened. Paul's a pretty chill dude, even when he's dead. Jokes aside, that's probably just muscle reflexes. Muscles can move on their own even after death with reflexes, then they use the little energy left in them to do this. Terrifying, right? With only 2.5 hours left on the clock, she goes back to repairing batteries as her last hope. She manages to get another one working and some of the lights come back. A pre-recorded message is played saying that she should also get the experiment tube with her. At this point, it'd be a miracle if she'd actually give a about this. Back on Earth, our experiment chief is in a live interview about the situation. He gets a little angry after the reporter asks if he has experience bringing bodies from space, which indicates that he was once an astronaut who lost one of his friends up there. Him sitting on his undies with a military uniform on top like we used to do in the pandemic is so relatable. While our old man is getting angry because they pronounce his name wrong, our main character manages to get the last battery alive. This results in another recorded message from the team on Earth that's basically saying she got 90 minutes of oxygen and they want her to get the experiment tube as well, to which she mumbles, "Are you kidding me?" The systems give her a little problem, but she manages to get them to work at the end. Don't forget that she's doing everything manually from memory. I take back everything I said about her training. She has every right to just leave right now, but obviously she doesn't. Because we need the plot to progress there, she must take the quantum thingy with her. She puts her own calculations into the computer, hoping they're right. These are the types of scenarios our math teachers dreamed of. They drool over these kinds of things. 14 minutes left on the clock, she records one last message for both the team and her family. She leaves the iPad in the ISS, so if she dies, they will find the message anyway. At 11 minutes on the clock, she locks the doors and launches. There's a malfunction in the things that are supposed to release the capsule, so she cannot disconnect from the ISS. She looks over to the guideline books, but the book says she needs another person to help her. With only 40 seconds left, she's desperately trying to solve the malfunction. Time runs out, and everybody is convinced that she's dead. The entire team starts praying for her. Now this part is borderline crazy. Somebody or something hits the button on the other side of the ISS, solving the malfunction. Paul? Is that you? I'm pretty sure that's you, man. Paul's the MVP. Anyways, she manages to disconnect the capsule and start on her path home. When she looks at the front of the window, she sees a human figure in the ISS, probably the thing that hit the button for her. The scary thing is, it cannot be Paul, not because he's dead, but because he's with her in the capsule. While she's manually landing the damn escape capsule, the two big leaders are talking about how the ISS was designed to run for 20 years and it has been running for more than 30 years. Well, I didn't know that. Everything suddenly makes sense. Their little argument is interrupted by an alarm caused by an object entering the Earth. Ooh, I wonder what that is. Everybody is going crazy, including her husband. They say it's gonna take some time for them to find her since she entered manually, which wasn't perfect. She's gonna land somewhere in that desert. An entire army of people takes off to search for her. The landing is successful, if you call this successful, of course. At least she's alive. She takes off her clothes and breathes in the fresh oxygen of our planet. She opens the door, finally relieved that everything is over, and she's faced with a damn wolf. Right when the wolf is going to attack her, it gets shot. Yep, they find her. Her family hugs her, and the chief hugs his experiment tube. Alice hugs her mom, and everything is fine. Happy end. Psych! You thought they disappear. Literally. Just gone. She screams for her mom, but she's alone in the whole desert. Same with our main character. She's also all alone. Everything suddenly goes back to normal. We go back to the house in the woods where her mom is asking, where is she? And Alice is answering, who? She's going crazy, also scaring Alice in the process. She tells her to get dressed and rushes outside to get the quantum tube, and the episode ends. We continue for the third episode, Somewhere in Space Hangs My Heart. Buckle up, because it gets even crazier from here. Alice and her mom are still traveling to the other cabin over the lake. Alice, being the smartass that she is leaving tracks so they don't get lost. The answer she gets from her mom is very convincing. There's another cabin that is our cabin, but not our cabin. We're not gonna get lost. Come. Wow, great job, Mom. Since she's taking her time placing berries for tracks in a storm with winds that would lift her little body if it were a little bit faster, instead of thinking that the berries would just fly or wouldn't even be visible because of the constantly moving snow that would cover them, she manages to get lost. I guess it's in their blood. We go to Star City where we see her drinking coffee. You should be used to these at this point. It's adorable to see Alice knock on the glass thinking her mom is not gonna come back from an MRI. Can't be mad at her, she's just a kid. A traumatized one. We're now at an interview and one of the reporters asks the question, what caused the collision? The team understandably avoids saying that it's a corpse. They're hiding that fact. Later, on a dinner with Paul's family, our main character accidentally says Paul's wife's name wrong. The problem is, she looks surprised and very confident that she remembers her name correctly. My mind immediately went to her going to a parallel universe because of that glowing quantum tube, and yes, I'm gonna keep calling it that. In a lab with our experiment chief, a team of scientists is trying to figure out what this thing is. This matter is only supposed to exist in zero gravity, however, it's still here. They're just as confused as us. Then the chief wakes up on his bed, revealing everything was a dream, or maybe he changed dimensions again and jumped to a parallel dimension. After this, we hear him say that, I went to the fucking moon and they're making me debate this guy. Looks like he's going to be talking about something with some other guy, but that's not the point. He said that he went to the moon, and when you check our list of the people who went to the moon, this guy is not there. Even though I call him Chief, his name is Henry, and again, he's not on the list. This means we cannot make theories based on our information from the real world because the show has its own plot. He says he was on Apollo 8. Let me know if I'm missing a detail and share your thoughts about this in the comments. While the chief is angry again, our team is watching the camera footage with everyone to understand what the fuck happened in there. Our main character says there was a signal when the collision happened and it's not in the footage. When they ask the others, the rest of the team says that they don't recall something like that. Now we're seeing some evidence that she's actually crazy and was crazy from the start. Paul and the human figure with all that crazy shit that happened are probably not real. I know you were expecting they were, but they really aren't. Sorry. They keep reviewing the footage, and when they come to the part where she investigates the collision because the camera was off at the time, the only person who knows what happened is her. Everybody's saying it was probably a small thing, but she insists it was a body. They argue for a while and she's finally accused of hallucinating. She lies and says that she never hallucinated in the mission and that she's confident that it was a body. While they argue, we see the chief is still trying to figure out what that thing is. He insists that he saw a second pattern that was the same as the one in the ISS, but nobody believes him, saying that it was probably a glitch. Back at our main character's home, she and her husband are having dinner and talking about how they miss each other. Alice calls for her daddy, Mom replies in Swedish, but she doesn't answer back. She jokes if she forgot Swedish in 90 days when she wasn't around. Again, I think this is a sign of changing universes. That glowing quantum thingy probably makes them jump to a parallel universe with their memories. We go back to when the chief was arguing with a guy trying to prove that the moon landing was fake. He destroyed him, obviously. The guy keeps calling him a liar. Also talks about how 2 men died on the mission the chief was on, which just gives us more information about him. After some yapping, we're back in the lab where he's just sitting there waiting for something to happen. The quantum matter starts doing its thing and showing off some patterns again. The chief gets excited and remembers to take a picture of it as proof this time. But suddenly we're faced with a very different situation. What the phone shows and what the screen shows doesn't match. Now, folks, there are 2 possibilities. He's hallucinating, or this thing cannot be recorded. Remember how quantum physics works? I don't either, but smart people say that both things can exist simultaneously. I think it's the second one since it just can't be that simple, right? They can't just make everyone hallucinate. If this quantum theory is right, then maybe the human figure we saw on the ship was actually Paul, just another version of him that wasn't dead. This would make so much sense with the double Alice situation as well. 2 things existing at the same time. Did I just solve the entire plot? Did I just solve the entire plot? Anyway, we'll see if this is true. Back to the show. Since the chief is a mad but smart guy, he takes out some paper and draws what he sees. We go back to the house where we see Alice helping her mom walk. Astronauts always have difficulties walking after long missions in zero gravity, so this is totally normal. She falls since Alice isn't strong enough to support her weight. She goes to get her dad. Our crippled mom starts crawling and suddenly realizes this is the exact same corridor she's in, the ISS, and the old house in the woods, the one with the wardrobe. She gets really scared and asks if there is anyone there. The wardrobe starts making noises again, and just as she's on the edge of going crazy because of this, Dad and Alice appear to help her. Meanwhile, in the lab, Chief is showing his drawing to another scientist. She laughs at him, saying you don't win a Nobel Prize with a drawing, and he says, I already won one. Dick. He's talking about the time he went to the moon. Later on, she asks the obvious question. Why can he see it and I can't? His answer is very close to my theory. It's the goddamn observer effect. If you don't know what that is, it's basically another thing from quantum physics where the outcomes change depending on whether somebody is observing it or not. Wild, right? In the same place, Alice and Paul's daughter are playing hide and seek. Paul's daughter cheats and peeks. She hides behind a truck and sees that her friend is coming in that direction. Suddenly, Paul's daughter smashes the bunny into the ground and steps over it. Alice says stop since this is actually her bunny and she gave it to her friend to make her feel better about her father's death. Alice rushes around the truck and she's gone. No bunny as well, like it never happened. Later, she gets into an argument with her friend about why she did that to her bunny, and her friend looks really confused, saying she didn't do anything. They say each other's moms are bitches and leave. Kids. We cut to a clip of the team arguing over whether it was a body or not. They show a garbage bag that was found in the ship that looks very much like the corpse she saw. This makes everyone believe that she's hallucinating and the case is closed. Our main character is still insisting that she saw what she fucking saw. She rushes home to her husband and hugs him. Neither her nor the main audience are sure whether it was real or not. I'm still holding my theory on both existing at the same time because of that damn quantum glowy tube. We cut to Alice and the chief talking together. This is pretty wholesome considering that they're both victims of these quantum hallucinations. Chief explains to her how quantum physics works and how basic physics doesn't apply to subatomic particles. After hearing this, I think we can finally go on and appreciate my genius, who, by the way, solved everything before any little tip was given. Anyways, we go back to our main character who's taking her pills after doing the doo-doo with her husband. She's still hearing this ISS radio at her home. Her head is a mess. Although I believe she was faced with a bunch of paranormal things that were caused because of that damn glowy tube, she's also probably insane at this point. If you ask me, she's holding on pretty well. I would have been screaming much earlier from that point where I saw a human figure pushing buttons to help me up in space. The door rings and it's the chief who brought little Alice home. The chief tells her that she could always talk to him if she feels overwhelmed by all of this, from one astronaut to another. I think the chief's my favorite guy now. Sorry, Paul. The ISS crew is walking and talking about the corpse. The crew wants to believe her, but there's just not enough evidence. She's still insisting that's what she saw, but she's doubting herself at this point. They end up at Paul's grave and throw some flowers at his grave. Everyone leaves and we're left alone again. She starts hallucinating again and sees Paul. He's also holding the same flowers. Maybe he's coming from a universe where he survived and somebody else died? But, of course, he doesn't stay for long and disappears like always. we're back to arguing if the corpse is real or not. Everybody's basically convinced that it was an orange garbage bag looking like a body. She's exhausted at this point and just says, fine, okay, yeah, it was just like you said. Please let me go home. They close the case once and for all and everybody goes home. Then we're in a home located in Germany. Our main character drinks some water and forgets gravity exists, which results in her dropping it. Alice makes fun of her for this and laughs. Later, she sees that they have a new car and asks the husband when they got this new car. From the way he acts, we understand that it was always blue and we're seeing stuff again. She says she's pretty sure it was red and he says that it was always blue. The chief and the leader of the operation are drinking some wine and talking. They must be longtime friends, probably dated back in the days, so it makes sense that they're close. She suddenly drops the bombshell that she's dying. No, literally, that's exactly what she says with a straight face. We learn that she has stage 4 something, meaning that this will be the last time they talk. Obviously, the chief is shocked. They get some music and start kissing while dancing. While this is happening, we're also getting cuts of the chief walking around the building with the same music. He goes and gets the conspiracy theories guy who doesn't believe in the moon landing. They argue a little bit, but then we learn that he fixed the 2 deaths of his crewmates. And he goes crazy too. While he's dancing with her, she turns into a corpse for a split second. And at the same time, he pushes the guy off the ship after he calls the chief fraud. Well, nobody liked you anyway, so goodbye. We cut back to when Alice was leaving trails while they were going to the other cabin in the snowstorm. Anyway, Alice finally gathers up some confidence to tell her mom that she's seeing things. She takes it nice and tells her that she's right, but also says that she doesn't think that this Alice is her daughter. Alice pulls out the biggest Uno reverse card and then goes, "Then who are you? What have you done to my mommy?" We get another cut of a couple of ambulances driving in a convoy with their sirens on, and the 3rd episode ends right there. Yeah, I know, what the hell? I feel like I'm watching Inception again. Oh my god. Let's gather everything we've learned together so far. The quantum glowy tube is causing 2 different possibilities to exist at the same time. The chief, Alice, and her mom are victims of this. We're getting sudden cuts every time, following 2 different stories 5 weeks apart. I don't know what'll happen from now on since my brain is mushy just like yours, but we know one thing. Something happened that changed everything and made them go to that cabin to hide from people. I believe my theory is solid. It's different universes or dimensions. They're jumping between them and seeing moments of what could have happened. Everything moved on so quickly, and if you watched it until the end, go ahead and let us know what your own theory is on how the story will continue. Until next time, take care.